All right, welcome to another edition of Mike Finds Things, where we go out and find records and all sorts of cool stuff at local estate sales and thrift stores. Mostly records, though. Sometimes we get CDs and other forms of music that is recorded. This is my first video I'm taping for this channel for 2022. The previous ones were all taped over the holidays because we had rain and I couldn't work on stuff outside. It was easier just to shoot those then. And the first couple estate sales I have worth of stuff were actually in 2021. And some of them are actually from the same estate sale where I got the Turley Richards record that was in two videos ago. I actually went back the following day and bought more records at that estate sale. So I'm going to be showing you those. More promos, nothing as crazy as that though. And as I suspected, the estate sales definitely have slowed down. So there's a lot less stuff to find, and I have to drive further to go to estate sales to find stuff nowadays. There actually hasn't been any estate sales in probably within 10 miles of here, 10, 15 miles of here, probably since right before Christmas, which is kind of odd. I know some people were saying, well, you got a lot of estate sales in your area. Well, all of a sudden that kind of dried up. So the first one, this is an estate sale. I actually had an appointment reservation for Disneyland, and so I hit a couple of estate sales on the way to Disneyland one day, and this is right before Christmas. First one I found a 45 from 1959. It's a rockabilly record. Crash Craddock, Don't Destroy Me, with the picture sleeve. Now this guy, of course, later on went and did regular country music. This one's in really amazing condition. So definitely a cool find. It retails between $6 and $25 on Discogs. But cool to find an interesting rockabilly 45 at that estate sale. That was one down, I believe that one was in Fullerton, so down in Orange County. Same estate sale. They had a very few. This one actually, they didn't even advertise they had records. It was just one of those ones, I guess, that you can kind of tell by some of the other stuff if they have pictures that, you know, the kinds of people that would have old records, and then sometimes you just have to take a risk. This was a killer find. The only one I could find that sold on Discogs was $100. This one's not worth $100. I've seen people asking like $40 or so for these as well. This one's T-Bone Walker. A-side is I Know Your Wig Is Gone, right there on black and white. And the B-side is the more better known song. They call it Stormy Monday, but Tuesday is just as bad. So that is one of those cases where the B-side is definitely much more recognizable than the A-side. It plays just fine. It does have some scratches and things on it, but it actually plays just fine. I've played it a few times actually. So I always like to find blues on 78, and of course that's a very well-known blues song by a very well-known blues artist. Obviously, you know, it's nothing insane value like some of the earlier blues records you would find on 78 if you could find them on 78. At the same estate sale, I think I paid like a bucker. I think I paid $5 for like the 3 records or something that I bought at that estate sale. So this is the third one. I always grab these Gannets, especially when they have interesting names that, you know, this one's Coal Black Mammy Ernest Hare on Gannet, because I don't mind taking risks. Sometimes these are harder to look up, especially like if you're in a estate sale, and 3 o'clock in the morning on the other side. And this one's in I'd say, really, really good condition. This one's from 1922. So it's probably Victrola, gramophone friendly, and I estimated it. I couldn't really find a value on this one. It's probably $10 to $15 would be an educated guess as to the value of that one. That's my guess. That's not something that's set in stone, so I do make that disclaimer. Here's one that I mean I know for sure I'm going to keep it. It's not the expensive pressing. Of course, I talk about finding blues on 78. Robert Johnson, you find a Robert Johnson. I didn't find a Robert Johnson 78. Don't worry. It would probably have been the main thing in the thumbnail if I did, just like that Turley Richards. But I did find this record. This is the source of classic jazz. Robert Johnson, King of the Delta Blues Singers, on Columbia, and it's basically a reissue of all his vocalion. In fact, it gives a whole list of like release dates It's reissues of the Vocalion 78s that he did. And the record came out in 61. This is not the 61 pressing. This is a later 60s pressing. The early pressings of this go for quite a bit of money. This pressing, from what I could tell, sells for about 10 to 35. And this is a very, very important record because this is the record how a lot of your 60s British invasion and British bands that got into blues, that got into doing Robert Johnson, your Claptons and guys like that. This is the album. This is the pressing. This is how they got that music, was this reissue LP. Obviously, they didn't have the original 78s back then. So as far as rock and roll history goes, this is like an extremely important album. Not one you really come across. And it's in really nice condition. Of course, it's not like the valuable pressing of it, but it's still something very cool to have in my collection, especially since I don't expect to ever run across any real Robert Johnson 78s. So now I'm going to go into the records from the estate sale where I found the, usually I do them in chronological order. I did that one out of order since it was such a major find. I went back the next day after I shot that video. I actually went back, it was Christmas Eve that I found these. I went and looked through some more records there. Said it wasn't that far from my house. So the first one I found, this is common. This one comes up a lot. From 1957, Boney Maroney by Larry Williams. And it has a star on it. I'm guessing this guy was a DJ, because remember he had all those promo copies. In fact, we got more promos coming up. So he put a star on there. So usually when they see stars and stuff like that, they know that that's the A side. But it's a very clean copy of it, so I grabbed it, even though it is a pretty common one. These sell between $1 and $8, I'm guessing because it was such a big hit from 1957. This one I've seen people asking $3 to $28, and it's a dreary one. Visions by Cliff Richard on an Epic radio station copy promo 45, and the B-side is Quando, Quando, Quando. You know that song. But I think Visions is actually the A-side. It's pretty dreary. It's almost, I mean, I didn't care for it, but still, couldn't find any sold values on it. I'm guessing because it probably wasn't a big wide release song because it's not very good. But Cliff Richard collector would probably want it anyway if there are any actual Cliff Richard collectors. Who knows? There's people collect anything, right? Here's one of those Columbia. There was a bunch of those. You remember last time we had those Columbia radio station promo copies, and a lot of them were in the same, like from the 1966 era. And I'm guessing this guy that worked for Columbia or just wound up with a bunch of Columbia promo copies that either weren't played or weren't played much. And this one is Spectrum by Johnny DuPont, and it's a space age pop instrumental. In fact, he wrote on here it's an interesting instrumental. And space age pop from 1966 on a white label Columbia promo. This one retails between $3.50 and $20. That's sold prices on Discogs. And going into another one, this is another one of those promos. And a lot of these have the similar catalog numbers, so I'm guessing, I guess that would just be a general guess, and they're all from like 1966, the same as the ones from last time. This one's a pop record, has sold between $4.50 and $11.50. Phoenix, Paparaldi, and You'll Lie to Me. And it's more of like a pop. I didn't take any other notes on it other than it's pop. But it does have a value. And here's one. It has sold, the non-promo version has sold for $4. You know it. I find a lot of James Bond records. And this one, like I said, from the same estate sale, same collection, John Barry, Goldfinger on a white label promo 45. And the B-side is Theme from Born Free. So a couple movie scores there for you on a 45. The non-promo version has sold for $4, so I don't know what the promo version would be worth. I couldn't find any record of it. Next one, here's another one. This is the same guy, same thing, white label Columbia promo from 1966. This one sells between $3 and $15. It's December's Children with Something Fresh, and this is a psychedelic record. You know, same condition as the other ones. And Mitch is High on the other side. So which is high. And we've got from 1966, and these are kind of like instrumental versions of these songs. This one sells for me $1.50 to $3. The Baroque Inevitable with Wild Thing, which is basically like an elevator version of Wild Thing. And on the other side, it is an elevator version of Sunny. You know, Sunny, yesterday my life, you know that song. So, you know, Wild Thing by the Trogs on the other side, but it's sort of like an instrumental, like almost like an easy listening version. Here's D.W. White. This one's folk from, same thing, 1966. Another Columbia Pro. Like I said, he had a bunch of these. This one sells 3 to 8. Don't Keep Me Waiting on one side, and then the other side is What Would You Do in My Place. So nothing spectacular there, but like I said, it was just weird to find so many of these promos in one place like that, and they're all different ones. This one sells between 3 and 16. This is a jazz. You probably know this one anyway. Roy Merriweather Trio with Watermelon Man. So a little bit of jazz on another white label promo from the same place that all the other ones came from, and even the ones from the last video. And Feeling Good on the other side. That one sells 3 and 16 on Discogs, because it's easier for me to look these up. That one didn't have a year, but I think they were all 66. This came from the same estate sale as well. This is a promo version. I can only find one that sold for 11. It's Lou Rawls, Silk and Soul. And check out the gatefold. I love Lou Rawls. This one's a white label promo. In fact, it has a sticker, DJ Not For Sale, on the other side. And so I'm a big Lou Rawls fan, so let's see if I can show you the white label here without messing things up. Be real careful. But you can have a look. White label promo. Not for sale kind of deal, like all the promos are. So that was kind of a neat find, especially since I like Lou Rawls. And I'm just going to leave that there, and I'll get it in a minute because we're getting through the stack here. The other one I found, this one sells for $1 and $8.50. Now I grab these compilations when they got good stuff, especially when they seem legitimate. This one's on roulette. Golden Goodies for a Dance Party, Volume 4. Now, this one's in excellent condition. In fact, I was playing it the other day. And has stuff like Peppermint Twist, Hot Pastrami with Mashed Potatoes, Locomotion, Bristol Stomp, Dance With Me Henry by Etta James, The Fly by Chubby Checker, Bongo Stomp, Holy Gully Callin' Time by the Jive 5, and Do You Want to Dance by Bobby Freeman. So if you ever want to just listen to oldies but you don't want to keep changing 45s, these compilations are just the thing. I think these, I can't remember what I paid. I think that day they were doing $2 on the LPs, so I think I paid $2 a piece for the LPs. I can't remember what he did on the 45s. It might have been $1 each or $1.50 each. I'm trying to remember. I can't remember something. This was another estate sale I went to because they had a bunch of, they had 78s in the picture. They had a picture with the books of 78s. So I said I'll take a chance because there was nothing in my area. I drove all the way down to Lakewood for this, but I actually wound up hitting a few estate sales that day, but this is the only one where I actually found anything. Okay, from 1947, we found a All Alone Blues by Sonny Terry. Now, this is on a Capital Americana label. And this one's actually in really nice condition. And as I always say, Discogs is terrible for pricing 78s. And this one is no different. This one's in amazing condition. And this one, it says the only one that ever sold on there was $5. I'm sure this thing's worth more than $5. But still an interesting find from that estate sale. Said it was, unfortunately, that trip that wasn't very good for finding records. This one sells between $5 and $40, which I did not expect. I bought it because it's more of a local piece of radio history. It's a KGFJ album, which was a soul station back when. Very Important Platters, Volume 2, KGFJ. And this is one of those like compressed groove records where they just put a whole bunch of songs on each side. I can show you the track listing there. It just has a bunch of different soul artists there. But I grabbed it more of like a collectible because it's a radio station collectible, KGFJ 1230, if anybody remembers that in the LA area. But it does sell between $5 and $40 on Discogs, and it's in really nice condition. It's got like B.B. King, The Impressions, Ike Tina, James Brown, Bobby Bland, Lee Dorsey, Etta James, Billy Stewart, you know, stuff like that on there. So that's kind of interesting. I did not. I honestly paid like $2 thinking that was what it was worth, because I just kind of expected to grab it because it was a piece of local radio history. This unfortunately had some more scratches than I originally thought it did. Sells between 22 and 40, but its roots Curtis Mayfield. So I like Curtis Mayfield. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to see if some of the stuff will clean out on it. It looked like dirt, and it might be like scratched. I gotta figure out, but I gotta see how it plays. I haven't had a chance yet, but still, that's pretty cool. Okay, so this is kind of interesting. So I haven't really been finding anything. Even like the local thrift stores have been pretty dismal lately. But I actually did find some records. I went to a thrift store, didn't find anything, and I went to a restaurant I like to eat at. And while I was sitting there, I looked up to see if there was any estate sales nearby, and there was actually one that was like 17 minutes from where I was eating, and it didn't show any records, but they didn't put a really good description. But judging from some of the pictures I saw, it's the kind of people that would have records. So I decided to take a chance and drove out there, and they actually did have records. So I'm going to show you exactly what I got. So I went in the first room. They had some 45s and LPs. No LPs I wanted, but I did go through the 45s, and I found some interesting stuff and some somewhat valuable stuff as well. Not all of it like extremely valuable, but I also found some 78s there. So we're going to go through the 45s first. The 78s were actually in a different room. I was really lucky. I went through the rest of the estate sale and found the room where they had more LPs and 78s. All the good LPs I think had already been picked through. But a lot of people don't touch 78, so I wound up picking up some really killer, it's like some really good stuff on 78. So we're going to start. I found this one plays great. It's in pretty good condition. It has one big scratch in it, but it plays through just fine. And I didn't have it for some reason, but it's Ride by D.D. Sharp. Of course, it was a hit, but still nice to find a somewhat clean copy that plays fine. And a German pressing of Louis Armstrong from 1955 on Brunswick on the sunny side of the street. And I grabbed it because it's very clean. It's a very clean copy, and I like Louis Armstrong. The other one is New Orleans Function, but on a German press, which was interesting. And this one sells between 6 and 15. It's a soul record from 1960 on Warwick. I'm So Happy by Faye Adams. And we found Look Around. So I'm always trying to find these. And this, like I said, this doesn't look like it's hardly ever been played. So I grabbed that. Another one we find a lot. In fact, I probably have I have several other copies of this, but I always grab the chest label stuff anyway. This one sells between $1 and $12. School Day by Chuck Berry. If you know Chuck Berry, you know School Day. In fact, I still have a copy of this that I bought at a yard sale back in the 80s. That's in, but this was a very clean copy, so I grabbed it because I like Chuck Berry. In fact, Chuck Berry, Jerry Lee Lewis was the first concert I ever went to. Was Chuck Berry and Jerry Lee Lewis. And this one's interesting. It's a Louis Jordan, but it's from 1957, so it's towards the end of his run there on Mercury. Of course, originally I think he was on Decca. And they call him the king of the jukebox. It sells between 4 and 23, I'm guessing because it doesn't come up very often. Rock Doc by Louis Jordan, so it's kind of his attempt at a rock and roll song. But it's actually a pretty fun one. The B-side is Morning Light, but Rock Doc is the A-side. And interesting song. Like I said, from what I understand, he didn't want to do rock and roll, and they finally talked him into doing a rock and roll style record, and that's what you got. And it doesn't come up very often. And I think I read that was kind of right before the label dropped him, because I think he's kind of fallen out of favor. Another one I grabbed, it's common, but it's in really nice condition, so I grabbed it nonetheless. Please Mr. Postman by the Marvelettes, with So Long Baby on the other side. First one, I think everybody knows that song. Now here's a neat one. This is Jackie Wilson. I like Jackie Wilson, but this is Jackie Wilson's Northern Soul record, Soul Galore, from 1966. It goes between 7 and 60, I'm guessing because it's Northern Soul. And the other side is Brand New Thing. This is a killer Northern Soul track, and it's in excellent condition, as you can see. And it's got a great dance beat to it for Northern Soul, and that was a great one. I know last week we had the Northern, so that'll go in the Northern Soul box, I'm guessing. This one sells you $113.50. Another Motown, not necessarily with like a Northern beat to it, but what's easy for two to do is so hard for one. Mary Wells. It's not a Mary Wells you see that often. And You've Lost the Sweetest Boy on the other side from 1963. I said not one of the Mary Wells you usually run across. Little Red Rooster, Sam Cooke, because it was same thing. It was in really nice condition, so I grabbed that. Obviously nothing to set the world on fire value wise. Hey Baby by Bruce Channel. Another one that's like a massive hit from 1961. And this one sells between 5 and 40. It's another Northern Soul from 1966. She Blew a Good Thing by the Poets on Symbol Records. And the other side is Out to Lunch. So that's a Northern Soul classic. Which probably explains why it goes between 5 and 40. This one is from 65, well, between 1 and 7. It's Joe Tex, A Sweet Woman Like You. It's sold, not really, doesn't really have a Northern beat to it. This pressing is between 1 and 7. I know there was like other pressings that had slightly different labels. From what I could tell, this label was between 1 and 7. This one I've found before. In fact, I think we've even had it on one of the videos. It sells for $1.50 to $9 from 1956. Rip It Up, Bill Haley and His Comets, with a Teenager's Mother on the other side. So we got that one. This one I couldn't find a value on, but from 1955, it is Ellington 55, Rock and Rhythm Black and Tan Fantasy EP, 7-inch EP. But it's a really nice condition, so I grabbed it. Good Times by Sam Cooke. And this one goes between $1 and $11. Of course, that's a big hit for Sam Cooke. But I mainly grabbed it because the condition's just so nice on it. I like Sam Cooke. This one sells between $1 and $10. It's a 2 7-inch EP set, premiered by Ellington with the gatefold. So I grabbed that. This one didn't really have any value to. I'm not gonna. And then another one that you probably all know, Lover Please by Clyde McPhatter. So anytime I find ones that people know and they're in good condition, I'll snag them. Obviously a very well-known Clyde McPhatter song. Now we're going to get to the 78s, and there are some monsters in here. Very similar stuff to the stuff if you watch my 78 only video. Now, I find Joe Houston a lot locally, with his saxophone. And this one is a killer jump blues record from 1954 on Money Records. It says, The Fabulous Joe Houston Blows Way Out. And on the other side is All Night Long. Not the Lionel Richie song. But check out that label. It's just money. But this one sells between 25 and 50, speaking of money. And it's nice. It plays extremely well. I've played this a few times, actually. So I like Joe Houston and that jump blues. So locally, you usually find Hurricane. I've never come across this one before. The Way Out. But kind of cool. I've got other copies of this, but this seems to be a better copy. This one sells between 5 and 20. One Mint Julep by the Clovers. And the B-side is Middle of the Night. Of course, very well-known song from 1952 R&B. It's in good condition. I wouldn't say it's like amazing or anything, but plays well. So probably an upgrade to my other copy. I have to double check. I'm pretty sure that's an upgrade to my other copy. This one's I couldn't find a value on this one. This one's 1953. It's Ella Louise by the Four Blazers on United. And Perfect Woman on the other side. So, But R&B from '53, and this one's pretty nice as well. These are all in like those binders when I got them, so they actually were in the record. I don't like those because if you open them the wrong way, they can actually pinch the end of the record. This one, unfortunately, somebody's asking $43.50 for one of these on eBay. I couldn't find a sold price. I couldn't even find a year. It's a doo-wop, and unfortunately the hole is opened up, but it plays fine. On Herald Records, Foolish One by the Rocketeers. It's actually a doo-wop record out of New York. And the other side is Gonna Feed My Baby Poison. Virtually that hole is open. I have one more coming up that the hole's opened up on. That's a lot more common, a lot more well-known song. I will say that. The other record that had the hole opened up like that. It plays fine. I don't know if you can JB weld it, if there's a way to fill it in, but as long as you center it right, it plays fine. Now, this one the hole's fine on. I'll tell you which one the hole isn't fine on. It's coming up. But this is a well-known song by the Orioles. Crying in the Chapel, of course, Elvis did a version. This one sells between 10 and 17. It plays fine. It's got a slight, I had to tweak the weight down a little bit on the turntable, just a hair. But other than that, it played fine. Has probably like a slight warp on the edge, like very slight, that I had to like tweak the weight. I only had to tweak the weight a little bit though to get it to play right, but it plays fine. There's a very well-known doo-wop from the Orioles, redone by Elvis. This is a great record here. This is Cry Some More by the Five Royales on Apollo. And this one sold for $30 on Discogs, and I like it like that on the other side. And of course, this is all the kind of stuff I like to find on 78. Of course, usually this is not the kind of stuff you find on 78, but there's that one. This is the other one where the hole was opened up on. Much better known song from 1954. Sells between 6 and 30. Shaboom by the Chords on Cat Records. B-side is Little Maiden. It plays fine. I'm guessing they must have used one of those spindle things that drops the record down, and maybe it opened it up. I don't know no other way how that would happen, unless they had a turntable that needed the spindle opened up. I really don't know, but it plays fine. Shaboom by the Chords. Of course, that's one a lot of guys, if you have a 78 jukebox, that's one that the 78 jukebox guys would probably love to have, since it's very well known. This is another Joe Houston. This one only goes between 6 and 10. I don't think this is one I had before. Jay's Boogie on recorded in Hollywood Records. I think that's the name of the label. It's actually recorded in Hollywood. The other side is Cornbread and Cabbage on this side. So we're going to get through these. Next one is Earl Bostic. Couldn't find a value on it. You find a lot of Earl Bostics though on King, Song of the Islands, more of a jazzy record, and Liebenstrom on the other side. Okay, so the next one we got another one that's a well-known doo-wopper. G by the Crows on Rama on a 78. This one sells between 5 and 25. It plays just fine as well. Of course, extremely well-known doo-wop record. I'm guessing a lot of times the values that are high on some of the more common ones are because guys just want them for 78 jukeboxes, as like the rock and roll doo-wop hits tend to be harder to find than your Bing Crosby's and Perry Comos and all that stuff you normally find on 78. This one I didn't write any notes on it, but it's Coleslaw by Georgie Auld, tenor sax solo with orchestra on Coral. I'm surprised I didn't take any notes on this one. Dark Green on the other side. Maybe it wasn't really anything. I can't remember now. I didn't take a note on that one, unless it fell off. This one, there's another one. We found a couple of these records from these guys in that big stash. This one is You're Mine by the Crickets, not those Crickets. Again, not the Buddy Holly Crickets. This is a doo-wop group called the Crickets. Milk and Gin on the other side. Of course, most people probably find these thinking it's related to Buddy Holly and the Crickets, those Crickets. And of course, they had the Crickets after Buddy Holly passed, still continued to perform. But That one was actually a doo-wop group from 1953. This one's a jazz blues record. Didn't have a value on it. Tiny Bradshaw with Powder Puff on King, and Ping Pong on the other side. So I didn't really have I couldn't find a value on it. It is a jazz blues record, jazzy bluesy record on King. Here's one, everyone knows the artist. Not a huge value, from sells between 3 and 5. From 55, Don't You Know by Fats Domino. And on the other side, Helping Hand. But it's actually, this is actually a great Fats Domino song, just not really one of his more well-known hits, though. Of course, everybody wants Blueberry Hill and things like that for their jukeboxes. So that's kind of, that was good to find. And it's Little Caesar sings If I Could See My Baby. And this is on another recorded Hollywood label. This is an R&B record from 52. And we got Goodbye Baby on the other side. Again, another recorded Hollywood label. I like to find those minor label R&B ones when I can. Obviously, they don't come up as much. Here's a really common rock and roll era 78. I think we found one last time, but this one's in better condition. This is The Great Pretender by the Platters. And somebody's owned by a guy named Sal who put a sticker on some of these. And I'm Just a Dancing Partner on the other side. So definitely cool to find. Only sells, I think it said it was like $3 to $5. It was like a really low value, but I still like to find them. For some reason, the Platters does actually come up quite a bit on 78. Whereas a lot of other stuff from that era that's rock and roll, that kind of thing, does not. All right, well, this was the last, I'm going to go into the last estate sale I went to this week. This one was actually posted on Facebook Marketplace, and he had a bunch of old record players, so I assumed he might have some records. Guy got back to me, he says, oh, I already moved the records to Las Vegas. And then he got back to me like a day later. He says, yeah, I found some more records. I guess he was going through his father's stuff. His father passed away, collected a lot of records, a lot of cool antique stuff. So I went out there. He's supposed to let me know if he finds any more 45s or 78s or anything. But he says he literally moved thousands of LPs to Las Vegas. I did go through his LPs. I probably should have bought more, because initially I was afraid to ask on some of the prices, because there were definitely some really valuable stuff there that I was kind of afraid to ask the prices of. But I still got some good stuff. For a good, very reasonable price. The guy actually did know music. He did know records. He used to DJ back, I guess, previously years ago. But I still got some good deals. Most of the singles were about $1 to $2, and then I got one 78. I think he sold me $1 for $1. That's a great one. And I think, what did I get? 3 LPs in this one. So let's go into this estate sale. This one's a promo version, sold for $20 on this one. This is from 64. On Chess, this one's got 2 return punches, because they must have really not liked the record. Jimmy Peterson, Inside of Me, with Maria on the other side on a Chess label. I said the promo version has sold for $20. This is not a promo version, unless you count the punches as a promo version. Some people say they're promos, some people say they're returns, some people say they're both. So 2 pull punches, who knows what that is. This one sells between 4 and 13 from 68. It's Roy Head. It's not Treat Her Right. It's Roy Head doing Ain't Going Down Right. So not Treat Her Right, but it's Ain't Going Down Right with Lover Man on Your Hands on the other side. Of course, usually you see Treat Her Right. You don't see this. It's in the original Mercury sleeve as well, which is nice. So not a Roy Head you see as often as, like I said, Treat Her Right. This one is a rockabilly record from 1959. Sells between 2 and 9. It's Little Bitty Johnny by Travis and Bob on Sandy Records. Often I'll take a chance on some of these, even if I can't look them up. And Teenage Vision on the other side, because a lot of these minor label ones turn out to be something good. Of course, sometimes they turn out to be absolutely nothing. But it's even in like one of those old 50s brown paper bag looking sleeves. So that was kind of a neat find. Here's one, 1965. This one sells between 3 and 16. It's a soul record. You've Been Crying by Ted Taylor on Jewel Records. Again, in one of these brown paper bag looking sleeves. Close Your Eyes on the other side. This version sells between, like I said, 3 and 16. I think I found a couple label variations on this. And So a lot of times you find these soul records that weren't hits and they weren't played very much, so you do all right. All right, here's one from 1959. I didn't really peg down a value. It's definitely going in the collection because I like Johnny Cash. Straight A's in Love, Johnny Cash and his Tennessee 2 on Sun Records. Catalog 334 on that one, and it is nice. B-side, other side is I Love You Because. And you can see this is a very nice record, so that's definitely going in my Johnny Cash collection, as it's not one you really run across very often. Couldn't peg down a value. I don't think it was they redid those like a lot of the Johnny Cashes. They made represses of them. So this from '66 goes between 2 and 11. Bobby Fuller 4. Love's Made a Fool of You on Mustang. I got a few of these Mustang Bobby Fuller 4s, and Don't Ever Let Me Know on the other side. I believe these were done down in Hollywood, so the Mustang Records ones. I think they were like one of the DJs from KRLA or something on that, or I don't think it was Art LeBeau was one of those guys. This one is a Psych record, sells between $1.10 from 1968. It is Pictures, you know this song, Pictures of Matchstick Men by the Status Quo with Gentleman Joe's Sidewalk Cafe on the other side. Of course, it's a major psychedelic hit right there. In the original Checker Cadet group sleeve. So that was a neat find. And we're going to go into those Beatles. Everybody seems to like them, so here they are. Not sure, couldn't find really the pressing on this. Obviously, it's a UK pressing. So if anybody knows, I'll show the picture sleeve a little bit better. I feel fine with She's a Woman. But it's pretty crisp. I'm guessing this might be a pressing from like the 70s or something because I couldn't find the one with that sleeve. The sleeve was kind of throwing me off. So if anybody knows, be sure to leave in the comments. I always like to find the Beatles because usually when you find the Beatles, they want like way too much money for it. And you're like, nah, because I've already got Beatles records. But in that case, I grabbed it because it's not something I see a lot. Here's a Surf one. I love Surf. We find Surf a lot. Cucked by the Astronauts, which they were out of Colorado, but it was still with Baja on the other side. This one sells for about $12 on RCA Victor from 1963. I like finding stuff like that, obviously. And you want more Beatles? Sure, let's do more Beatles. You know, there's like a channel. Has anybody seen that channel that's all Beatles records? And it's like crazy that a guy does a channel. He's very successful doing it, too, with all different weird pressings of Beatles records. And I think it's, man, kudos to that guy for being able to do an entire channel of nothing but one artist. Because, I mean, obviously the Beatles, you know, there's a lot of different pressings and different collectibles and things like that. But still, this one sells you $1 to 27 from 64. It's one of those VJ Beatles records from before Capitol decided they messed up. Of course, Please Please Me with From Me to You on the other side. But the VJ Beatles stuff, pretty collectible because obviously it was kind of like one of the biggest mess ups in rock history that the Capitol decided. It was first offered the Beatles in the United States and said no. And because you like that one, let's do another one. This one's sells between 8 and 20 from 64. This is a different VJ label of the same record. This one's like a more plain looking VJ record. So From Me to You and Please Please Me. And this one's actually, the record's in better condition than the other one. But don't come across those that often, but always nice when you do because it's sort of an interesting piece of Beatles history. I'm sure we have Beatles fans on this channel. I think there's about 100% chance of that. This one's sells between 3 to 23 from 61. Curtis Lee, Under the Moon of Love on Dunes Records. Very nice condition with Beverly Jean on the other side. Of course, a soul record. This one, only one I could find was a guy was asking $100 for this one. It's a 1955 Jump Blues record on Excello Records. Arthur Gunther, She's Mine, All Mine. You can see the condition it's very shiny. And You Are Doing Me Wrong. This side's a little more scratched up than the other, but still nice. On the other side, somebody named Patterson wrote his name on there. But on Excello Records. So the only copy I could find is some guy's asking, not getting, $100. I always have to make that clear. I just give that as sort of like an estimate. That doesn't mean it's worth $100, as you know. This is from France, from 1964. Obviously, the music's not from 1964. This one sells for about $13. It's sold for $13.64 on Discogs. Bill Haley, Pioneers Do Rock, and Mambo Rock, 13 Women, Don't Knock the Rock, and Razzle Dazzle. So it's a Bill Haley EP pressed in France on Brunswick. And I'll show you that. So it's very similar to the Brunswick that we found earlier, from the other sale. I should note that was from the other sale. The other one, the Louis Armstrong that we found earlier in the video. This is another 1964 French Bill Haley EP. Rock Around the Clock, Shake, Rattle, and Roll, Dim the Lights, and Happy Baby. This one has sold for $15.34 on Discogs. So that's the only sold price I could come up with. This one, it's nice, but still cool. Early rock and roll, put out as an EP in 1964 in France. Bill Haley and the Comets. This one sells between $5 and $50. The condition on this isn't the most wonderful thing, but it is surf, so I had to grab it. Dick Dale and his Deltones. Let's Go Trippin' on Deltone Records. Fortunately, somebody wrote their initials all over it. And I'll show you the record. We love our surf. And Deltone Rock on the other side. So I really wish they hadn't written on their label there. But of course, from 1961. Of course, it's surf, because it is. And R&B record from 1961, we got Wilbert Harrison with The Horse on Fury Records. This one sells between 2 and 13. It's still got an interesting label there. And Da Dee Ya Da on the other side. And you wanted more Beatles? Well, too bad you're getting it anyway. This one's on Capitol, so this is more of your usual. It was clean enough where I grabbed it. The Beatles, What Goes On, and Nowhere Man on the other side. So if you even slightly know the Beatles, you know those two songs. So I'm assuming people know the Beatles songs on this channel. I don't think that's even an assumption anymore. I don't even look up the value because I just don't care, but I'm sure you can figure it out. This one's great. I love finding these local records. This one's between 10 and 34. That's All by the Midnighters. And on the other side, It's Not Unusual. Okay, so found that. That's local East LA kind of soulful record. The Lowrider guys love that. So definitely a cool local LA record to find. This one sells between 4 and 48. I didn't really look this one up what it was. I'm guessing this is My Love by the Chestnuts on Aladdin. I always like finding the Aladdins because you find a lot of cool like doo-wop and R&B type stuff. Wiggle Waggle is the other side from 1958. Another LA based label. We got a R&B record from 64. This one sells between 2 and 20. I Just Called to Say Hello by Sunny Night on Aura Records. And If You Want This Love on the other side. So we got that one. This one I knew what it was because I have a copy of it already, but I grabbed it. This one sells between 2 and 39. I've actually got another copy of this that's like perfect. It came out of the jukebox stuff that I got like 20 years ago. 64. It is the Blundell's La 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 La, recorded live at the Rhythm Room in Fullerton, California. This is a killer record. It's almost like a soul but also garage record. and Huggies Bunnies on the other side. But A side is the La 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 La. Yeah, it's just, look that one up if you don't know the song, because it's a killer one. Sells between 2 and 39. I can see. I mean, if you listen to it, you'll know why. It's a cool record. This one sells between $1 and $8, and it's a garage record. Peter Rabbit by DJ and the Runaways on Smash. And Are You Ready is the B-side. So, not an expensive garage record, but still not something you run across a lot, or you're going to. This one's a rock instrumental, not surf, not really twangy. It's more like a rock and roll, almost like a boogie woogie, early rock and roll. And if I understand, these guys were like session musicians, and they just put out like a quick record, and they just came up with the name The Spaceman kind of on the fly. And it's The Clouds on Alton Records. Unfortunately, someone put a sticker there. Looks like they put tape, but then they peeled it off, but it left the glue, and the glue's kind of still there. And The Lonely Jet Pilot is the other side. But this one sells, $1 and $20. Preston 59 said it was supposedly session musicians doing an instrumental record, from what I read, and it's a cool one. Not, like I said, instrumental from 59, but it's not really surf and it's not really rockabilly. So Keen Records, this sells $1.50 and 22. I was not expecting that. You Send Me by Sam Cooke. I'm guessing 22 better be like a really sweet minty copy. And Summertime is the other side on Keen. Big hit for Sam Cooke. We got more Beatles. You like Beatles? Sure, we got more Beatles. This one needs to be cleaned. I think this one will clean up nice. She's a Woman. I don't have to tell you what that is, and I feel fine. I don't think I need to tell you what that is. The song's popping up in your head right now. But Beatles singles are cool to find. Wow, this is like one of my. I always mention this song because it's one of my favorites from that era. On Duke Records on a 45, I still need to find a 78 of this. Pledging My Love by Johnny Ace. I realize the 78's not like super expensive, but still. Pledging My Love by Johnny Ace. And no money on the other side. This is just, like, I realize it's like a very well-known doo-wopper, but it's still, I love that song. It just gives me chills. Like, if you, I don't know, how do you feel about Pledging My Love? Let me know in the comments. I like it. I've always loved that song. Sells for $1 and 10. This is another doo-wop on Pilgrim Records. There's a few label variations. This label variation is between $1 and 10. The G Clus with Ka-Ding Dong. And of course, somebody put, the same guy probably owned that Pledging My Love because it has the same sticker on it. And Darla, My Darlin' on the other side. But 56 doo-wops, 45. I do have one doo-wop 78 coming up in the stack. So, I mean, we just had a bunch in the other. This one's a Bobby Bland, sells between 2 and 19 on Duke Records. Ain't Nothing You Can Do. And Do What You Set Out to Do on the other side. There's Bobby Bland, kind of bluesy soul. And this one I grabbed because people like these for their jukeboxes, and I already have another copy of it. It's the short version of Nights in White Satin by the Moody Blues. I didn't look up a value because it's pretty, there's different variations of it, and Cities on the other side. And people want these for the jukeboxes so they can put Nights in White Satin. Of course, that you can't get, this is like a 3-minute version of Nights in White Satin, so it's not the full-length version, which I've got, of course, I own that LP, the Days of Futures Past LP. This one's from 62. This is the second pressing on Downey Records. Unfortunately, someone put, like, paint marker on it. 62, Pipeline by the Shantays on Downey. And, oh, God, they did it on both sides. Ew. But other than that, it's pretty choice other than the paint marker, which there's no way to get that off, unfortunately. And we did find that the Rumblers on Downey Records probably about a month or two ago. We found that at an estate sale. That was a killer. That was, I think, Bossed by the Rumblers. That was a killer record. That one's definitely staying in my surf collection. Now here's that 78. This is the one 78 I got from this guy. And it's a good one. 1954, it sells between 10 and 11. It's the Penguins, not Earth Angel, but it is Love Will Make Your Mind Go Wild on Dutone. And Ookie Ook on the other side. And it plays fine. And it's got light surface scratching like most 78s do. But still nice to find another local doo-wop record out of LA here. They're Dutone. I'd like to find Buick 59. I found Buick 59 by the Medallions on Dutone on 45. I'd love to find a 78 of that eventually. It will probably happen someday. And we're gonna go to the LPs I got there, and let's start with this one. I think I paid $5 for each LP here. He had other stuff that was like, obviously I didn't want to grab it because they were like ones that were, I should have bought more LPs, but the guy's supposed to call me when he comes back to LA to sell more stuff. Spencer Davis Group, Give Me Some Lovin' LP. The record's nice. Unfortunately, this is separating. This one sells between $5 and $193. This is far from being a $193 record. Of course, with the split, it's got some wear, but it's still decent. And it's Spencer Davis Group, so I wanted it. This one sells between 6 and 14. It's a French pressing of this one. And this one's definitely staying in my collection. Eddie Cochran, and it's Legendary Master Series. So it's a 2 LP set with the gatefold of Eddie Cochran. With the whole story of Eddie. It's even got like a booklet in here. But, you know, yeah, I had to grab that. Check that out. But 2 LPs, they're both in great condition. I had to have that one for the collection. And then this one is a UK pressing. I think these were only done in the UK, or they weren't done in the US, I should say. Sells between 11 and 27 from 67. Raw Blues, Ace of Clubs. And you can see the John Mayall, Eric Clapton, Otis Spawn. You can see the list there. And it's a stereo. So that was it. So that's what I got for you this week here on Mike Finds Things. Hopefully you liked the video. Please subscribe. We need more subscribers. This is a fairly new channel. I'm still kind of working the bugs out, still learning the ins and outs of doing videos about records, because I usually do records. My other channel, which is my name, Mike Frankovich, I do car videos, and I put a link in the description. So if you like classic cars, check that channel out. That one is a humming. I got to start selling some of these records. I got to figure that out. As the local swap meet where they do a lot of records is unfortunately always on the same day as a car swap meet that I go shoot, that I make money on when I shoot for the other channel. So we're still figuring out how I'm going to do that. But some definite killer finds here this time. I'm going to hit some estate sales tomorrow, because there's a few. I got all the way down to Orange County because there's none in my area for some reason. I don't know if it's an LA County thing or what. But I'll see what I can find this week. Hopefully I'll find some good stuff. And we'll get that on the channel. And I try to post videos every Thursday, and I'm hoping to keep that up. I've been pretty good about it. I think I've hit every Thursday for quite some time now. And leave some comments of what your favorite records were. And until next time, I'll be seeing you.